Well, folks, I bought a beater kit. Hey everybody, I'm Tanner Knight. Welcome to another episode of Tanner's Favorite Things. And yeah, that's exactly what we've got here, a beater kit. I didn't think the $50 drum set existed anymore, but lo and behold, on my local classifieds called KSL, this thing came up for $50. And I'll show you the picture that caught my attention. I unfortunately didn't get a chance to save any of the other pictures before the ad was taken down, so this is all you get. But anyway, this is what it looked like, and there was one picture that had this badge right here shown, and a little dark, can't see it quite well, but that right there is a Yamaha made in Japan serial badge. This is typical of the 70s, although in the 70s they would say made in Taiwan, Republic of China. In this era from say 1980 to the mid-90s, I believe, they used this badge, and this is actually a 1989 18-inch by 16-inch floor tom. This is the Yamaha 8000 series, and yeah, it's a big beefy boy with an Evans EC2 head on it that looks like it needs to be replaced. But I took the chance on this set mainly because I knew if all else failed, I could turn this into a project tom and, you know, it would be a cool project. But there are some issues with it that we'll get to in a minute without revealing everything. But otherwise, the rest of the kit was quoted as a Pearl kit. And I'll be honest, I have very little experience with Pearl. So maybe someone here can help me understand exactly what set I got for 50 bucks. This is a 22-inch kick, probably a 16-inch depth with 8 lugs, and this style of claw and lug looks like, I don't know, maybe a single screw in there too, not sure. This is the spur. Both spurs are present, but it looks like all the hardware was painted black at some point. That's the case for these rims and the lugs on the toms as well. And of course we have our 16-inch tom here. So our sizes are 12, 13, and 16 with a 22 by 16-inch kick. I think that the depth on the 12 is probably a 9 or a 10-inch, and then the bottom, the 13, is probably a 10 or 11-inch. Another thing to mention is that the previous owner said that he himself refinished this kit. Not sure if there was a wrap on it. We'll have to look a little closer. Looks like there might be some torn wood here. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a wrap on this thing originally and it just bubbled, or he wanted it off and wanted to get the wood underneath, but it wasn't all that pretty, so he just stained it dark. That's my best guess of what's going on here. Here are the hoops. They look like they have a square edge, so probably, I don't know, 80s or 70s, might be an old hoop. I know nothing about this kit other than what you see here. It doesn't look like there's any badges. There's any indication on the outside. Here are the floor tom legs. Pretty heavy duty wing nut there. We're missing one of the legs. You can see we have 2, so I'm just gonna borrow one from one of my other sets. But this is what we've got. Straight seams. Air vent here. Yeah, this is a pretty gnarly refinish. So I don't really have the hardware to play this kit yet, but I'd like to just set it up in its current set, see if I can rig something, because these toms here have this pearl-sized mount, which I don't have any of. I have plenty of the Yamaha and Tama sizes, but that's not gonna help me here. So I'll have to see if I can figure out something of a tom mount and get these things mounted. So I was gonna throw a tune on this 18-inch tom and see how she sounded, but I said, let's just take off the reso head and take a look inside. So you can see the beautiful wood here, which I think is birch on the 8000 series. I'm pretty sure they're still using the Luan or Meranti Philippine mahogany for the inner layers, but we have the layer of birch on the outside. It could be beech as well, but I believe it's birch. It's very beautiful. And you can see all of our inner screws here, and immediately you'll notice we have some light coming through the other side. There's an additional hole here. So this tells me that our tom feet or Our tom leg mounts are not original. They're probably not Yamaha. So I don't know exactly what those are, but they are not the original ones. So they had to drill a slightly lower hole. The good news is that that hole would be hidden if I were to restore this to the actual lugs, which I do plan to do, by the way. I want to restore this entire drum, minus some of these screws, which are obviously newer and shinier, which I don't have a problem with. But the lugs, the T-rods, and the claws, I want to make sure are as close to original as possible. So when we do have a hole like this, my preference is to fill it. I've never actually done that before, so I'm going to go ahead and teach myself how to do that and document the process. So if you have any suggestions about filling holes in a drum shell like this, then please let me know. But all three of the tom legs do suffer from this mismatch of sizing. Unfortunately, the worst part to come is down here. Every single one of these lugs either utilizes a single screw or they're just kind of using one screw on a 2-screw lug. I'm not exactly sure. We'll have to take that side apart as well and see, but all around here we have an additional hole drilled in between the 2 original lug holes. So that's a bummer. Never ideal, but again, if I wanted to leave those holes, they would be hidden entirely and you wouldn't have any evidence of them. But my preference is to fill them. So again, we got some holes to fill. Otherwise, let's take a look at this inner layer, which again I think is birch. Absolutely gorgeous. We have our diagonal seam right here, which is characteristic of Yamaha and Tama, and it really makes for a very solid round shell, one that you can't really fault in pretty much any way, even after all these years. Here's our grommet with our air vent, and you can just see some of the original screws, some of the non-original screws, additional holes where we mentioned. And then finally, we have the bearing edge here. The bearing edge is gorgeous. This is a little sharper than I am used to seeing on these big toms. Typically, the Yamaha and Tama and the Pearl kits of this era or earlier will have rounder bearing edges, but this one's very sharp. Let's see if I can get up on it. Comes almost right to the edge and stays sharp. So that's interesting, and I'll bet it's the same on the other side as well, but that's characteristic of a later 80s, early 90s Yamaha drum, I would assume. And let's also take a look at this 16-inch tom from this quote-unquote Pearl set. Again, I have no idea what this set is, but it's pretty light. And we do have natural wood on the inside, but it's unfinished, so it's not like a lacquered interior or anything. Actually looks like it might have been sanded by hand, I don't know, or with an orbital, something like that. We have all of our inner screws, which looks good. No additional holes like our poor Yamaha tom, and our bearing edge looks pretty good. It again is a little sharper like the one on that Yamaha tom, but it does have slight round over on this side, on the outside of it. I'd say rounder than that Yamaha one. So yeah, more modern, but looks good. So that's the inside of this tom. And this is what all of the rest of the toms look like. I'll probably just open up the bass drum as well and take a look, but try to get this thing moving. I don't have much hope for this bass drum because it looks like this hoop is not the original. It's obviously a different color, and it's slightly larger than the diameter of this friggin' drum. So I'm not sure if that's just because this thing is way old or because it belongs to something else, but this actually looks like a nice hoop that had an inlay that has since come off. So that's kind of the set of hoops here. And the bottom one looks like it fits a bit better. So maybe it's just user error, but we'll try to fix that and see what's inside here. All right, everybody's favorite part. What's inside the bass drum? I guess before we do that, I always kind of think that people put these black ones on here to hide the monstrosity inside. So let's take a look. There go all my lugs, but not bad. Just a little pillow or something. And you can see the inside of this thing is also looking pretty raw and rugged. Some of the stain seeped through and doesn't matter on the inside, but looks like we have all new hardware in here, so probably the original to this drum set. Our bearing edge is, again, feeling pretty damn good. Nothing wrong with it. Pretty steep, maybe a 45 or maybe 40-degree angle, but slightly rounded off on the back side, or I guess the outside, and yeah, not too terrible. So I got that to seat a little bit better, but it's not perfect. You can see that it's square over here and it kind of overhangs over here. Not as bad as it was. It wasn't overtaking the rim of the head, so that's good news, but we'll go with that. All right, here they are, fully together, and I had to use just a little duct tape on those tom mounts. I ended up using one of my Tama Omnisphere mounts that interfaced with the Pearl mount on top, and yeah, I just had to expand the arms a little bit to accept these bigger hold toms. So they are in fact 12 by 10 inch. 12 is the diameter, 10 is the depth, and 13 by 11 inches, 13 diameter, 11 inch depth. And I do have the 16 by 16 tom almost all assembled, but go figure, this friggin' tom leg mount here is too small for my Yamaha legs or my Tama legs that I have. This one even has a friggin' bolt, so that's great. It seems to be the right thread count and the right thread pitch and everything, so that's good. It's just a bolt, not ideal. But I don't have a leg small enough to fit this, so I guess I'll have to go to my local store and get one. So in the meantime, we happen to have a backup tom. Although this giant 18-inch Yamaha floor tom is a little raggedy looking based on the fact that nothing matches on it, it at least tuned up really well and is ready to rock and roll. All three legs are there. So let's play this kit and hear what it sounds like in its current state. All right, this thing is actually pretty cool looking from back here. You can't really tell how terrible the stain job is, so that's good. The bass drum hoop seems to stay aligned when it's on its when it's sitting on the round, so that's good. And I played it a little bit and it plays pretty good. So let's go over the mics that's capturing sound today. We have 5 microphones just up close, and starting over here we have an SM58 on the snare and hi-hat. I have a 58 on either tom, and then I have a PVM 328 dynamic microphone similar to a 57, only kind of tuned for this lower tom, and also a PVM 321 on the kick. And I typically like a hole in the front of my kick drum. I'm not crazy about just fully enclosed kick, so I might cut a hole in this one eventually, but let's hear it as it is. I haven't done anything except for wipe off the heads. They were pretty filthy. They've been in storage for years, according to the guy. And yeah, I tuned them up as best I could just by ear. These are pretty whipped heads, so I didn't put too much effort into the tuning, but let's just hear them as they are without a cleanup, without a strip down, without anything, just as they are. So here is this kit, starting with the tom. Tom number 2. Not the most dynamic of instrument, but let's hear this big ass tom now. Sounds like a frickin' gong drum. That thing is so huge. I also have a couple different Tama 18-inch by 16 floor toms, and they are also pretty rowdy, but this one might be lower than all of them. It might have a lower fundamental pitch. Might have to do a head-to-head with the 18s that I have. But that's a friggin' badass sounding tom. Let's hear this whole kick. Well, let's hear the kick next. What you can't see is that I do have an Aquarian Super Kick 2 on the front of this. So that was a clear head. If you wanted to see in here, you could. But the other head is that pearl head, which is probably an Evans head, but I don't know. Typically, you'd see an Evans mark on there if it was as well. But either way, it says pearl. Who knows what it is? The other heads that we have are actually, they've been beaten, but they haven't been abused. They are the Evans EC2s, which I've just familiarized myself with on my Yamaha 7000 series drums. I just put that set of heads exactly on there. So they feel really good. And even with about more than half of their life used, they're still serviceable. So let's hear this thing with the kick. From what I can tell behind the kick, it sounds better than it should. I don't know if it's the hardware or just the shells themselves or just the pillow, the tone pillow inside, but this thing sounds good. I like it. I'm actually a little surprised given that I do have a predilection towards a port on the front, so maybe we don't cut a port in this one, we just rock it solid. All right, let's hear everything all at once and see what kind of music this kit makes me want to play. Pretty fun, I gotta say. On a new scale that I just made up this second, the Funometer, this is a 10 out of 10. And as far as a $50 investment in this kit, I would say that I've already had my $50 worth of fun, and I'm gonna continue playing this kit, obviously. It's a real fun kit to play with, this big old tom. These are not that big, the 12 and the 13. 12 by 10, 13 by 11 is very similar, actually. It's identical to the Yamaha 5000 series kit that I also have. I just did a video comparing the toms of that to the shorter size of the earlier Yamaha YD 7000 series toms, and I like the shorter toms better, so it's no surprise. These big toms are pretty raucous. These are not quite what I would call power toms. I tend to think of power toms as being square sizes, 12 by 12, 13 by 13, 16 by 16 obviously is the same, but 14 by 14 if you're going that route. So that's what I consider a power tom, but I know that other companies and other people consider just a little bit longer than standard a power tom as well. So chime in the comments if you have your own thoughts there. My one problem with this kit is I hate how it looks. This guy, obviously no problem, piano black on an 8000 series Yamaha is really, really nice, and I can't wait to get some more period correct Yamaha lugs and tension rods, and maybe even the hoops. I'm not entirely sure. I'll have to do a little bit more digging on these hoops to see whether these are the original. My heart tells me no, as every other aspect of this drum has been replaced. Even the legs and the mounts, I believe, are not original. So I got some work to do there to find some hardware and fill in some holes, but otherwise this is going to be a very cool tom to put under the microscope a little further down the line. So look out for that video in the future. Otherwise, I would say that for 50 bucks, if you can get a drum set of this caliber, then boom, you've nailed it. You have a quality drum set. And in fact, the previous owner told me that this one had been gigged quite a bit previously. So what that tells me is that it made good sound, that it was a good sounding drum kit that the band liked, the people who listened to the band liked, or at least didn't hate, and it worked. So this thing is a rocker, it's a player for sure, and my final goal for this is to strip it down and kind of give it a little bit of new life. I want to find maybe some better fitting hoops and obviously go from there. I'd like to strip down all of this black paint from this hardware. I know black makes it look more metal, and there's really no harm in having it black, but I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like it. So I'm going to try to strip that back. So I've got quite a bit of work ahead of me, and I'd like to see what kind of kit this is. My heart tells me it's maybe a 90s or an early 2000s kit, but I just don't have enough experience in the Pearl realm to kind of make those calls based on what I have here. I'll give you some close-ups of this tom mount. That's probably the best indicator. That and the spurs. I think they're all original. They feel original to me, and that's kind of my best guess. So I'm going to leave this kit here for now, but I'm going to slowly but surely take pieces from it and try to restore it, and I don't know, maybe I'll just do it all at once and put another kit here. But I want to play it. It's a fun kit to play, and maybe I'll even try to record something on it. It's pretty brash, so let's try to, in fact, give you a full band context with this drum set. So I'll lay down a few loops here and play the drums over them, and hopefully that'll give you a better idea of what they sound like with guitar and bass. So I'll play you out with the loop. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. That always helps. Suggestions are always welcome. If you have obviously played a kit that you think resembles this one, let me know. I would love to know your thoughts about what this whole 4-piece kit is. Obviously, I know a bit more about this Yamaha tom. That's a bit more in my wheelhouse, but this thing, I have no idea. Pearl export, is it something lesser, something more? It sounds really good, so that's all that matters to me. Let me know what you think.